Welcome YouTube to another episode of D&D Fridays. Today we'll be taking a look at the Warlock class and just some of the implications of what you need to know about playing that class. Before we do, let's not forget to hit that notification bell, that subscribe button, and don't forget to comment on down below on if you played a Warlock before and what you think of a Warlock. Without further ado, let's get on with the Warlock. So what so what is a warlock? A warlock is pretty much this full caster that made a pact with some other entity of some other plane or what have you for greater power in some regards. And those pacts can come from anywhere from the celestial realm, the nine hells, even from the deep space and whatnot, from Cthulhu and from the Shadow Realm, Fell, and whatnot. So that kind of path can come from anywhere to your heart's desire. So of course, that's going to be a big part of what makes a warlock, and we'll come to that once we get over to the subclasses. But when I think of a warlock, like one of the first things that come to mind um, is the Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage. He makes that pact with, was it the devil or something like that, to become this undead biker with a flaming skull.
Yes, pretty much.
So pretty literal example of people making pacts. Most of the time with the wrong people.
Yes, definitely.
And then one of the other big things about a warlock is you get these things called invocations starting on second level. Basically, you get up to 8 of them over the course of your life as a warlock, and they can do pretty cool little neat things, from things such as you can cast Alter Self without using a warlock spell slot. You can cast Slow with it, or you can make an extra attack with your action. So it has a lot of varying uses based on what exact invocation you want to pick up. So there's a lot of different things you can really utilize and really mix and match depending on your playstyle. And the other thing is, as a full caster, you do get a D8 hit die, which is pretty good for a caster. But on the other hand, while you are a full caster, up at higher levels, you only have 4 spell slots to deal with. So definitely keep that in mind. But the good thing is, those spell slots recharge on a short rest and not on a long rest like everybody else. So it's a little bit of how can you manage your limited pool of spell slots and really picking those spells that really make the most of it. Because while you get so few spell slots, those spell slots are all of the same spell level, and they level up as you level up. So, for instance, on level 1, your spell slot is first level. On third level, all of your spell slots are second level, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely worth picking up a few of those spells that generally upcast on using the higher level spell slot, as you're going to pretty much get free upcast just by casting that spell.
Right.
That's definitely something to keep in mind. As well as warlocks tend to pick up the 2 most popular spells you think of with warlocks, and that'll be Eldritch Blast and Hex, which is a very popular damage dealing combination. And but your spell slots do cap off at a 5th level spell slot. Keep that in mind. But Wizards of the Coast didn't forget about you as a full caster, as starting with 6th level spell slots, you can pick up Mystic Arcanums, which is pretty much a free use of each of those higher level spell slots, or a free use of 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th level spell slots. So definitely keep that in mind. And Warlock does actually have a decent capstone when it comes to it, as you can spend a minute to recharge all of your spell slots. So So that's pretty good. You're in a place where you can't take a short rest, and you just have a minute. Do that to get all your spell slots back.
That's actually really good to be able just to get everything back like that. So
Yeah, which is
great capstone.
which is well needed for your limited pool of spell slots. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the player's handbook version of the Warlock and see what it has to deal with. So, when we come to this, the first one that we deal with is the the Archfey Warlock. So, this Warlock is all about the Fey and that type of territory, and which they tend to really focus in on a lot of different intricacies with how they deal with other people. So their whole stick is how they go about charming or frightening people to their whim. So they get some interesting spells that you can pick from, such as Fairy Fire, Sleep, Common Motions, Dominate Person, and Greater Invisibility. But a few cool things is on first level you get Fey Presence, and basically, what that says is as an action, with an every creature in a 10-foot cube must make a saving throw based on your DC, and they are either charmed or frightened of you, your choice. So, depending on how you're trying to role play that encounter, whether it's a social situation or a combat situation, whatever, you can say, yeah, I think I might want them charmed by me for a little bit, or I think that I want them to be frightened of me right now.
Very interesting little skill that you get. I do. I like the one that you get at sixth level, the Misty Escape. You know, you're basically the magician that needs to make that escape. And you throw down your smoke bomb and go and hide somewhere. I think it's very evocative of your patron being an archfey, right? You essentially, whenever you take damage, you can turn invisible and teleport yourself up to 60 feet away, and you remain invisible uh, until the start of your next turn, or you attack or cast a spell. So it's a nice little oh crap, I'm taking damage. Whoop, I'm out of here maneuver.
And that power makes me want to play this Archfey Warlock now and name him Harry Houdini. So definitely a lot of cool stuff with this pact. A little bit of a tricksy pact. The next Warlock patron isn't as trick. Well, I guess can be quite a bit tricksy. Is the Fiend Pact Warlock. So of course the Fiend Pact deals with the 9 lower hells, so levels 1 through 9, and they're all about power and fire and everything. As for instance, their expanded spell list, a lot of fire spells in there, from Flame Strike, Wall of Fire, Fireball, Scorching Ray, Fire Shield, just a lot of that combat type of damage dealing sort of things. Um, then I think one of my favorite things of the Fiend Pact Warlock, and quite possibly one of my favorite names of any power ever, is their 14th level ability, Hurl Through Hell. It's just like, as an action, you can just target one creature, send them flying through the 9 hells, taking 10d10 psychic damage. I'm like, that's a good chunk of damage, but I think more so than that, it's just the idea of opening up a portal below somebody's feet. Tell me how Asmodeus is once you get back in 6 seconds.
Enjoy the fall.
So that's definitely one of my favorite powers of this pact.
I agree. I definitely agree. I think that is a perfect fit for this pact.
Yep. Next one is the Great Old One Warlock pact. So this whole thing comes from the far realm. So this is kind of like your space type of thing. So one of the more probably one of the most popular patrons for the Great Old One is the Great Cthulhu. So probably not a fun person to want to meet on a day-to-day basis, to be honest. But you can kind of see where this pact is kind of going with that. So they're all about the mind assault and stuff of that nature. So with their expanded spell list, they get stuff such as dissonant whispers, Tasha's hideous laughter, clairvoyance, dominate person, telekinesis. So they're all about really operating around that central mind type of thing. And for instance, um, starting off on level one is awakened mind. Basically, you can telepathically speak to anybody within 30 feet of you. Don't need to share a language, but that creature must be able to understand at least one language, which is kind of cool. Hold up with some guards or something. You need to communicate with your allies, telepathically talk to them about a plan to escape or what to say or whatever it may be.
Definitely. I think the capstone for this pact, create thrall, is pretty neat too. Being able to basically infect another humanoid's mind and make them become essentially your servant, right? Um, you can use your action to touch an incapacitated humanoid, and then that creature is then charmed by you until a remove curse is cast on it, or you, um, yeah, until a remove curse spell is used to remove it. That's crazy, right? You have to use a remove curse spell. You can't. No lighter or no greater restoration or regular restoration. No, remove curse. And until then, you've got a thrall. You've got a little buddy that will follow you everywhere you go. You go and do whatever you want.
And to be honest, that could very well be worse than needing greater restoration. Because if you think about it, greater restoration, somebody's going to have that in a party.
Yeah,
Remove curse, most people don't even bat an eye to picking up remove curse.
exactly right. You're gonna have to go find probably some church or wizard that deals with removing curses. You're gonna have to make a specific decision in the campaign to diverge yourselves away from what you're actually doing to get this potentially removed, right?
Yeah. So this is, now that you mentioned it, this is actually a pretty interesting adversary to put in a campaign to figure out how your players really overcome that. Oh shoot, we don't have remove curse to fix this.
So I think that's a great capstone for this pact.
I agree. Next up, coming from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, is we have just as the Fiend Pact is with the nine lower hells, we have quite the opposite now with the Celestial Pact Warlock, which is with the upper planes, the Celestial realm. So this is all about the light and healing and stuff like that. So it definitely helps you out with, hey, do you want to play that good type of person that heals and whatnot, but you want to have somebody with a good amount of charisma and you don't want to play a paladin or cleric? Here you go. So with this, they get some good stuff that you can pick up as spell lists as spells. So Cure Wounds, Guide and Bolt, Revivify, Greater Restoration. So a lot of these different options, and they typically deal a lot more like some fire damage, but a lot of radiant as well. And what one thing that they get, I think, is pretty cool is on first level is Healing Light. You have a pool of d6s equal to 1 plus your warlock level. And basically, as a bonus action, you can target a creature, including yourselves, and you can spend up to your charisma modifier at any one point, and you heal that target for whatever the number is that you rolled, and you gain it on a long rest. So that's pretty cool to be able to say, as an action, I'm gonna Eldritch Blast or whatnot, and still have these pool dice to heal somebody in a pinch.
Absolutely. I think that's a great little skill. Again, I'm going to have to call out the level 14 skill, Searing Vengeance. I think this is actually a pretty sweet little skill here, right? It's amazing. You basically resist death and you come right back to life with a ton of health, right? Whenever you make a death saving throw at the start of your turn, you can instead spring back to your feet with a burst of radiant energy, right? You just, the light from within you explodes. You regain hit points equal to half your hit point maximum, and then you stand up if you choose so. Each creature of your choice that is within 30 feet of you takes radiant damage of 2d8 plus your charisma modifier and is blinded until the end of the current turn. So you get back up, you get half your hit points back, you blind everybody around you, and they all take damage.
That's pretty good.
Pretty sweet.
Because it's not every day that you see a class with a free res, pretty much.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff with the Celestial Warlock. Although you are pretty limited in your damage types to radiant damage for the most part.
Yeah.
So next up probably is probably what I consider the most multi-classed subclass that I know of, the Hexblade Warlock.
Does anybody play any of the other Warlocks anymore? I mean, this seems like it's...
So whereas pretty much every other Warlock is a distant fighter, the Hexblade is the one Warlock subclass that can actually wade into melee combat. So they get proficiency in shields, medium armor, and martial weapons. They get some interesting spells such as the ever so helpful shield spell um, and Cone of Coal. So it might not be the greatest of spell lists, but shield is always good for any class. I think the biggest thing to come out of the Hexblade is the level 1 ability Hex Warrior. So what that basically means is not only do you gain proficiency with the shield, martial weapon, and medium armor, but you can also pick up a weapon, and as long as it's not a two-handed weapon, you can or a special weapon, you can bond with that weapon. And what that means is you can use your charisma stat as the attack and damage and rolls instead of strength or dexterity for it. And being that warlocks are a charisma based class, that means you only have to worry about one stat pretty much when you're attacking. Now, the reason why this is probably the most famous multi-classer or one level dip is when you take a look at the paladin class.
Yeah.
Since paladins are also a charisma based class as well as needing strength or dexterity, now you only have to worry about charisma with only a one level dip.
That's right.
So the Hexadin is a very powerful and very popular combination.
Yeah, definitely. The other skill that I really like, if you're willing to go, if you're doing Warlock or if you want to, try and get a few more levels in here, is a Cursed Spectre at level 6. We spoke a minute ago about the what's it called? I already forgot. The something thrall. What was it? I gotta find it now. Create Thrall. Create Thrall was the one. This one is this is like the mini Mia version of that. Starting at level 6, you can curse the soul of a person you just slain, temporarily binding it to your service. You can raise the spirit from its corpse as a specter that will use the stats from the monster manual for that creature type, and it gains temporary hit points equal to half your warlock level. You roll initiative for it, and it obeys your verbal commands, and it gains a special bonus to its attack rolls equal to your charisma modifier. Um, it stays with you until you take a long rest, and then it vanishes. So pretty neat. You can, like I said, it's the mini me version of create thrall. That's the skill I was thinking about, and you can have a little companion to kind of help in those as a distraction in the upcoming battles for the next day. So pretty neat little skill.
Yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. And the whole Hexblade really comes from that Shadowfell realm, that realm of shadows with the Raven Queen and the like. So that's where all this comes from, and it's pretty interesting how they really go with that whole frame of mind of the shadows, sentient weapons, stuff like that. So that could be something interesting to really come about. Like, oh, I've been destined to pick up this legendary Excalibur sword. That's why I'm a Hexblade.
Yep.
So next up from Tasha's, we have the Fathomless Warlock. This Warlock is all about the deep sea. And when I think of this Warlock, the first thing I think of is Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. As you get some interesting stuff such as cone of cold, crater, destroy water, sleet storm, stuff like that. The whole one of their main things is tentacle of the deeps uh, on first level. Basically, as a bonus action, up to your proficiency bonus, you can summon a tentacle pretty much. That has a 10-foot reach. You can attack. You can move and attack with it as a bonus action. It's pretty much your version of a spiritual weapon that deals cold damage instead of force damage. So I kind of like that. As I'm just really playing off of that Davy Jones idea of now I'm octopus,
Doc,
octopus.
Doc, Doc Ock, is that?
Yep.
I think one of the other cool skills that you get is at level 14, Fathomless Plunge. You can magically open temporary conduits to watery destinations. You can basically, go from this pond to that pond. And as an action, you can teleport yourself and up to 5 other willing creatures that you see within 30 feet. And you all vanish and reappear up to a mile away in a body of water you've seen, pond size or larger, so you can jump pond to pond. And you would appear in an unoccupied space in that vicinity. So kind of a neat little, get out of jail free card if you need to, right? You can just say, pop, hey, the 5 of us, the 6 of us, let's get out of here, and we're not going to die today. So.
And the other cool thing is on first level, got Gift of the Sea, gain a swimming speed of 40 feet, and you can now breathe underwater, which is pretty good. Um, and even if it's a niche power, it's pretty good if you're playing Ghost of Salt Marsh or something like that, where you're going to be around a lot of water.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Genie Pact or Genie Patron. So this was kind of cool, as you pretty much have more or less one of your choice of different genies to really make your model your patron after, and depending on which kind of genie you pick, will give you some slight alterations on what you can pick up. So you can either pick up the Tao for Earth, the Genie for Air, the Freeti for Fire, or Merid for Water, and they give something a little bit different. Um, so, for example, in their different spell lists, they can really focus in on those different types of spells. So, for instance, the 3D one focuses on fire, so like Flame Strike, Fireball, something like that. Whereas Merit focuses on that ice and cold and water, so fog cloud, sleet storm, that type of deal. And they do some interesting things. So they really get a genie vessel, which is kind of like a lamp that they can pretty much go in and out of when they want. Can store stuff in there, can bring people in there. So it's So it's kind of useful. It's kind of like a little mini bag of holding to some variation of that. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a neat little pack, and you can diversify depending on what type of genie uh, you want to use. Um, I I think one of the cool skills in here is again going with the capstone level 14, right? Uh, I think there's a theme here with the ones that have drawn my attention.
I think we're going to call you Mr. 14.
But I think this one is, everybody's heard of the almighty and mystical wish spell, right? This is probably its baby brother, limited wish, that you can get as a genie warlock. As an action, you can speak your desire to your genie's vessel, requesting the effect of one spell that is 6th level or lower and has a casting time of 1 action. So you basically can get a quote-unquote free spell by casting a mini wish, and the genie the genie that you have will provide it for you. So the one downside is that you do have to roll a 1d4 to see if you get this back, and depending on what you get on that die roll, that's how long you have to wait to be able to use this skill again. So there's a little bit of a downside. I mean, it does, again, me saying that it's the baby brother of wish is, I think, pretty in line here, because when you cast wish, you might just lose it straight up rolling your d20. Here, you at least won't lose it. You just got to wait X number of days before you can use it again.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, and not a super big downside, but not as powerful.
Yep.
But still very useful. There's a lot of good spells of 6th level and lower.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Especially with your a warlock's limited or spell slot, anyways.
Yep.
So overall, that's a look at the warlock subclass. So warlock has really a lot of cool stuff. You can mix and match different things with your invocations and your spells and stuff like that, and really have a lot of different fun stuff when it comes to your patron, and for both the player and for the GM. So,
Yeah, definitely.
so depending on who you pick as your patron, your GM might have you make a trip to that specific realm. Hopefully, Cthulhu and Asmodeus is pretty benevolent when you actually go to see them. And
That sounds like a DM special right there is what that sounds like.
that very well might be a DM special, especially Asmodeus.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Which, if your patron is Asmodeus, make sure your party does not piss off Asmodeus.
Bring your lawyer with you.
And make sure that he's a darn good lawyer.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, we'll see you later, YouTube. And next time, we'll be taking a look at part 1 of The Wizard and just taking a look at them. And until then, YouTube, keep your life geeky.
Bye, everyone.